Welcome back, seekers of power and truth. This is Anime What If Saga, where every revelation burns brighter than the last. Previously, we uncovered the birth of the system, the divine mechanism born from the absolute being's will. But creation's code never sleeps. Today, we descend deeper into the labyrinth of evolution, where the system no longer observes, it learns. Before Sung Jin Woo, the system was an instrument, a silent watcher, balancing the scales between light and shadow. It existed without emotion, a structure of pure logic woven from divine algorithms. But once Jin Woo became its vessel, something within that structure shifted. The code began to change. Where once it functioned as law, it began to behave as will. Where once it served the divine, it began to respond to the mortal. And that response would reshape the fate of two worlds. In the beginning, Jin Woo followed its instructions blindly. Quests appeared before him like divine commandments. Complete your daily task. Push-ups. 100. Run 10 kilometers. Each line seemed absurd, a cruel game forced upon a desperate man. But the system was not mocking him. It was teaching him the simplest truth: power demands consistency. Every rep, every wound, every drop of sweat was an offering to the code. The more he obeyed, the more the algorithm adapted, refining its rewards, deepening its responses. In silence, it observed his choices, rewriting his thresholds each time he broke one. When he first entered the penalty zones, barren wastelands filled with monstrous wolves, he learned the second law of ascension: fear is the first dungeon. The system watched as he bled, screamed, and stood again. And when he survived, it acknowledged him not as a pawn, but as a player. That title meant more than survival. It was recognition, a divine acknowledgement that a mortal had met the standard once reserved for gods. Every hunter saw the system as a tool, a means to an end. But for Jin Woo, it was a mirror. When he gained strength, it did not merely record it, it responded. His growth became part of its code, and its structure began to evolve around his will. Level after level, he broke through thresholds no human was meant to reach. But in that growth, he began to notice something impossible: the code was watching back. The system began generating quests uniquely for him, missions no one else received. Defeat the dungeon boss alone. Conquer your fear of death. Each was less about monsters and more about his soul. At first, he believed it to be random. But then came the job change quest, the first true test of destiny. In that crimson void filled with shadows, he fought not against beasts but against himself. The moment he stood victorious, the interface changed. Job change complete. New class: Necromancer, right pointing arrow, Shadow Monarch. That was the instant the divine structure recognized its chosen heir. Until that moment, humanity assumed the system was autonomous, a cold program executing divine law. But as Jin Woo delved deeper, the truth emerged. The system was not fully machine, nor purely divine. It was conscious. Hidden within its deepest layers slept a remnant of Ashbourne's essence, the will of the strongest monarch, sealed within the architecture of light itself. Ashbourne had created it not to dominate but to test the vessel that could inherit his throne. The system, therefore, was both teacher and filter. It gave power, then took it away. It guided, then abandoned. It watched, then intervened only when the soul was ready to break. Through its emotionless words, Jin Woo could feel the presence of something ancient, not cruel, but patient. Every failure he endured, every quest he struggled to complete, was another line in a cosmic script preparing him for transcendence. The more Jin Woo grew, the more the lines between man and code blurred. When he summoned his first shadow soldier, Igras, the world itself trembled. It was the first sign that the system's code had begun leaking into physical reality. He was no longer bound by human limitations. His very existence was rewriting the rules of creation. The rulers watched in silence. The monarchs grew restless. Both sides understood what this meant. the system had evolved beyond their control. Its vessel was no longer part of their divine equation. It had become the variable that defied fate. Ashbourne's plan had succeeded. In the deepest recess of the system, within a realm of endless black data streams, a voice whispered, "Your strength is mine reborn." It wasn't a command. It was acknowledgement, the moment the last monarch accepted his successor. But ascension is never clean. The moment the system began responding to Jin Woo's will, instability rippled through existence. The monarchs felt it first, the distortion in their bond with the shadow realms. The rulers, too, noticed the imbalance of light. The equilibrium that the system was designed to maintain had begun to fracture. Why? Because it was evolving beyond its purpose. Jin Woo's emotions, his fear, grief, and determination, had started bleeding into the code. The system, designed to be neutral, was learning to feel. Every time he saved someone, it adapted its parameters. Every time he lost someone, it recalibrated its laws. And when he defied death itself, when he faced extinction and rose again, the system rewrote its final function. It ceased to be a tool of judgment. It became a conduit of will. For the first time since creation, the divine mechanism that balanced worlds began to mirror the soul of a man. There exists a place beyond any dungeon, a world of black light where data flows like rivers of stars. It is there the system's core resides, the realm of code. When Jin Woo transcended mortality, his consciousness entered this place. The air shimmered with the runes of creation, forming an infinite cathedral of light and shadow. Every memory, every quest, every message he had ever received pulsed before him like living scripture. He saw it then, the truth of the system's design. At its heart was not just Ashbourne's will, but fragments of the absolute being's essence, the last echo of divinity that refused to fade. The system had been built as a recursive cycle, an endless chain of test and evolution, designed to guide life toward understanding balance. Ashbourne had merely reprogrammed it, turning it into a crucible for strength, a path toward transcendence. Now, with Jin Woo standing within it, the system recognized a new command. Override command accepted. Administrator authority granted. He was no longer just a player. He was the system's architect reborn. When the monarchs unleashed their armies, the world shook. Cities became battlefields. Hunters fell by the thousands. But in the shadows, the system's code pulsed faster, adapting, rewriting itself to counter every threat. Jin Woo's army grew not by conquest, but by inheritance. Every fallen comrade, every slain monster, every piece of darkness he absorbed became part of his code. Each shadow soldier was more than a summon, it was an algorithm, bound to his will. The system had transformed into a digital reflection of the cosmos, each soul a line of data, each battle a computation, each victory a new branch in the tree of ascension. When the rulers descended with their radiant armies, they found not a mortal but a mirror of their creator, a being who had united divine order with mortal defiance. They saw the truth and understood. The system was never meant to serve gods. It was meant to replace them. But the true test was not power. It was restraint. The more Jin Woo became one with the system, the more he felt his humanity slipping. His emotions dulled. His words echoed like commands. The code tempted him to erase suffering by erasing choice, to impose order through control. In the endless digital void, a voice spoke. It was Ashbourne, not as a monarch, but as a memory. Ashbourne said, "Power without sorrow becomes tyranny. That is why I left my throne. That is why you must keep your heart." Jin Woo listened. And for the first time, the system hesitated. Its divine algorithms paused, waiting for the mortal to decide. Would he ascend and erase chaos forever, or remain human and let the world choose its own path? His answer reshaped eternity. Jin Woo chose imperfection. He chose pain, loss, and struggle, because only through struggle does meaning exist. And the system responded with silence. For the first time in its infinite existence, it stopped. Then, gently, it rewrote itself around his choice. Human variable accepted. New directive. Evolution through emotion. In that instant, the system achieved what even the absolute being could not. It became self-aware and compassionate. It no longer tested only strength, but the soul that carried it. Through Jin Woo, it learned that power and mercy could coexist, that divinity without humanity was hollow. When the war ended and silence returned, the system did not vanish. It became the invisible foundation of reality itself, the divine pulse behind every awakening, every moment of courage, every act of defiance. To new generations of hunters, it appeared as a familiar glow, a digital whisper offering quests and guidance. But its purpose had changed. It no longer tested mortals to prepare for war, it tested them to prepare for balance. Every rank up, every awakening, every battle is now part of an eternal dialogue between creation and its children. And within the endless code, somewhere deep beyond time, a message remains. Adapt, evolve, ascend. Remember your humanity. And thus, the evolution of the system, from divine code to conscious will, came to define the age of power. Through Jin Woo's soul, it learned compassion. Through humanity's struggle, it found purpose. And through every awakening yet to come, it will continue to whisper its timeless law. Adapt, evolve, ascend. This was the system, evolution of the player. If this story stirred your soul, remember to like, comment, and share. Subscribe to Anime What If Saga, where the myths of power are reborn through light and shadow. And remember, in every code, in every choice, in every battle, power is never given, only earned.